Today, we got a great speaker lined up for you today, as always. He's with us the whole month of March. He also did a phenomenal job, I've heard. I got to go back and watch it because I watched everyone that I missed this past Saturday's training. Without any further ado, from the San Diego area, one of our very own regional directors does a phenomenal job on training, and just tell people how it is. Made a decision to do ACM full-time, went after it, his dreams and goals and desire, because he understood corporate America was not going to fulfill what he wanted in his life, and he wanted to change his life. Without further ado, regional director, Mr. Julian Lewis.
Guys, before I get started, for all of you that are on the call this morning, write this down. It's June 8th. June 8th. That's my birthday. So whoever's sending out 10K, I'll give you my address. My birthday's June 8th, and we can talk about it. So with that being said, I just had to do that, Mr. Thomas. Listen, blessings abound. You deserve it. And just your heart, I know who you are and why you do what you do. And I'm so happy you enjoyed your ride. I know you know what I'm talking about. I can't say what, but you know what? And I appreciate everything. It's right there. I appreciate
You're already in the book on June 8th. You're already there. I got you already.
I know it. That was for the 10K person, though. So
okay.
They can give the June 8th. I got you. Right. But ladies and gentlemen, all jokes aside, Mr. Thomas is incredible, and just the person that he is, he's been able to serve and help so many people in such a short period of time. And people wonder why. It's like, okay, people call him a living legend. Why? It's because of the amount of people that he's been able to serve in such a short span of time. And when that happens, what that creates is a legend. And I'm so blessed and honored to be able to know you, and I appreciate you thinking enough of me to get me on here to train everyone. So I'm excited about this call. We're going to be talking about, last week we talked a little bit about time management. We talked a little bit about, what you should be focusing on. This week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about time, not management, but just time, because there are some things that we need to get figured out because time is short. Okay. Thank you. I want you guys to know that time is extremely short. And, if you're a parent, you know this, you see how fast your kids grow. And I remember as a child, my father saying, man, this year has gone by so fast. And I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? This year took forever, right? And as a kid, time was different. And then as an adult, I started to see the acceleration of time. And it just seems like the last 2 years were a blur. I'm thinking about 2016 like it was yesterday. Can anyone relate to what I'm talking about? You know it when, here's what happens. When you start seeing kids in college and you don't know if they're in college or in high school, right? It's starting to change. So I'm at that point right now. And so because time is so important, we don't have time. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous that people may be wasting time for fear. Okay. And there are some things that you might be doing that's killing your momentum or killing your forward mobility. And so I wanted to talk about those things, a few things. The first thing is the language you use. So the language you use might be killing your forward mobility. And this is attached to something that I was speaking about at the end of the last week's call, called your narrative. Your narrative or your identity. It's not real. I know we hold on to it and it's important to us, but your narrative or identity isn't real. Meaning it's fictitious. You created the story, because all the events that happen in your life, those things are real. That's a fact. But the story or the meaning that you apply to the events in your life are of your own creation. Are you guys catching that? The story and the meaning that you apply to the events in your life are your own creation. which means your narrative is a fiction. Your identity is associated with the meaning that you give to the experiences in your life, which means your narrative is a fiction. I need that to sink in. The people that I love, I talk to them about how they communicate in their own mind. And this is what I want to recommend to all of you. Communicate in your mind. You have to think of yourself as talking to your child. And I said this before, okay? So you have to talk to yourself as if you're talking to your child. How would you talk to your child? Would you talk to your child the same way that you talk to yourself in your mind? Would you use empowering language and positive language, or weak and disempowering language? Do you say to yourself, I am not good enough, I don't deserve it? Or alternatively, I know I can do it and I feel good about myself? Once you're aware of your narrative, you can work on improving it and increasing your confidence. But it comes from an awareness first. Some people don't even know that they don't even know that everything that they say in their mind, 85, 90% of it is negative. And they wonder why. See, because we talked about this before, ACN is not hard. What's hard is all the garbage that we have to get through in the muck in our minds before we can do ACN. That's what's hard. It's not the process. Exposing people, asking for opinion, like we talked about Saturday training, and peaking, shooting your shot, like Mr. Curtis Evan talked about. That stuff's easy. What's hard is the muck in your mind. Then you got to take a look at worrying about things you have no control over. This is a big one. This is a big one. So worrying about things you have no control over. It's normal to worry sometimes. It's normal to worry sometimes. Unfortunately, most people worry about the past and the future. I need you guys to get this. Most people are worrying about the past and the future. You know what both of those things have in common, Mr. Bob Meyer? Neither one of those things you can control. You don't control those, okay? Things you have no way of controlling. I even know people that worry about worrying. Does anyone know anybody that worries about worrying? So these are things you have no control over. You're not going to feel good and confident if you worry, especially about things you have no control over. You have no control over your past and your future to some extent, but you don't have control over the things that are going to happen. But you are the only one who can control your emotions. And what I mean by controlling your emotions, controlling how you react to your emotions and controlling how you react to your situation. We've all heard the saying, your attitude determines your aptitude. It also determines your altitude, okay? So you wanna make sure that you're aware of the worrying. If you're worrying about things in the past and you're worrying about things in the future, here's how it usually looks. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. This bad thing happened to me in the past. So it means it's gonna happen to me again. People will put certainty on negative things all the time, but they won't put certainty on positive things, which is weird because it's the complete opposite. So it's the same type of thinking. So for instance, if every time I pick up a glass, if 3 times I picked up my cup, I dropped and spilled the drink, then I make a negative assumption that the 4th time I pick up the cup, what's going to happen? I'm going to spill the drink. Is that actually true though? No, it's not true. The 4th time I could pay attention to what I'm doing, pick up the cup and not spill the drink. And my past has nothing to do with what I'm going to do in the present. But we make an assumption that our past is going to predict what we do in the present. Since we worry about the past, we actually bring it into the present. What does that mean? Because I'm worried about picking up the cup and dropping it. I'm so worried about picking up the cup and dropping it because I did it in the past. I repeat it again. And I say, oh my gosh, I knew it was going to happen. And what you're doing is you're creating that result through your worrying. I hope you get that. It's not because the universe aligned, the stars showed up and said, Mr. Thomas, you're gonna drop the cup again. It doesn't work that way. You did it to yourself. I learned this in football. This was really simple. As a halfback, we used to have to run routes to catch the ball as well. And even in the Super Bowl, I saw a few guys drop a pass. How many of you saw a few people drop the pass in the Super Bowl? You saw that? You know why 99% of them dropped the ball when they went to catch it? 99% of them, and they're professionals. Someone put in the chat, I know you know why. It's because they were already thinking about the future. So they were worried about getting hit, and they were thinking about the run when they should have been focused on the what? Catch. All they needed to focus on that present moment was the catch. The best wide receivers on the planet are so great because they can tune out the past and the future and zone in on the present and focus only on the catch. That is why they're so good. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because, ladies and gentlemen, if you understand that the present is the only thing that matters, it gets you out of worrying. And getting you out of worrying allows you to start to curate your own and create your own future. This is a big one. Not treating mistakes and failures as learning. This is big, guys. When you don't treat mistakes and failures as learning, then you ultimately sabotage your success. So, for instance, going back to the previous point, how you react to your situation will determine your results. Let's say you've received a phone call saying that you didn't get a job you had an interview for. You have two choices. You either can react by saying, I'm such a failure, I'm just not good enough, I'm never going to get this job, or by saying, never mind, at least I had the chance to practice my interview skills. Next time, I will be better prepared. Failure is an ongoing process of learning. If we're going to grow and take risks, failure has to be a part of that. And I wanted to connect that because of what Mr. Curtis Evans said. Mr. Curtis Evans said they practiced. Every one of those people in sports, those professionals practice. In other words, practice, if you're taking notes, is controlled failure. Practice is controlled failure. So when you realize that, then failure, you can eliminate the negative connotation with failure. Well, how do you control it? Controlled failure. So practice. What is practice? Let's break that down. What is practice? Practice is doing something over and over again, right? It's repetition. Have you ever heard repetition is the mother of what? Learning. So failure, when done over and over again, changes its definition to what? Practice. Practice is the repetition or the mother of learning. So failure is just practice without control. I hope you guys caught that. Failure is just practice without control. If you want to have success, then you have to fail repeatedly in a controlled environment, which we call practice. And that's what allows you to become an expert. That's what allows you to become a professional. So you can't treat mistakes and failures as mistakes, or you can't treat mistakes as failures. You have to treat them as learning. How far off you are allows you to get data. All failures are an ability to collect data so that you can see how far off you are from the shot so that you can hit it. See, when you see what Tiger Woods is able to do, when you see what Steph Curry is able to do, when they release and that ball goes where it needs to, whether it's a golf ball or a basketball, why is it that it's able to go where it needs to? It's because of all of the consistent failure, all of the repeated failure on a regular basis. That repeated failure allowed them to train their mind and their muscle to be able to go where the ball needs to go. The same thing applies in your ACN business. And I wanted to lay this out because, again, like I said, we don't have a lot of time. What I wanted to do is I wanted to share something with you. First thing I'm showing you is, so my daughter's on the left and her best friend when she was 5 years old is on the right. So that's Naya and Faith. And Naya, at that age, that was the year Naya looked at Faith, who was literally a couple of inches shorter than her. And I used to tell my daughter every single day, the only way you grow in life is if you try new things, right? And she looked at Faith because Faith hated to try new foods. And we were eating shrimp wonton soup. And Faith said, no, I don't want shrimp wonton soup. And my daughter looked at her and said, see, Faith, that's why you're short. If you don't try new things, you'll never grow. And Faith looked at the height difference in my daughter and her eyes got big, and she started eating the shrimp wonton soup, right? The reason why I'm showing you this is, though, that was a cute little story, but I want you to look at this picture right here. All right, cool. Yeah. So check this picture out. So this is her around her 16th birthday this year in January. Okay. And the reason why I am showing this to you is because the first picture, I remember turning around and taking that picture like it was yesterday. This girl is 16 years old, and I'm bragging on her now. Bragging on her. She told me at the beginning of the semester that she's getting great at her, you'll know who she got. She's getting great at her systematic approach to learning in her classes, right? And she said, I feel confident with my system. I wasn't just gonna freak you out. I feel confident with my system. I said, for real? She said, yeah. So at that time, she was a 3.8 GPA as the youngest junior in her school. And now she's at a 4.17 GPA in her school. And her confidence goes along with her father always helping her to believe in her mindset, to not have her worry about things that don't matter. It's not, you can call her smart, bright, all those things, which she is. But the thing that stops us, guys, the thing that limits us isn't our intelligence. The things that limit children aren't their intelligence for the most part. It's their confidence. It's limiting those negative things. It's knowing that they are knowing, hey, Sam, almost 4.2, homie, almost 4.2. And so it's knowing these things that I love myself. Do you get what I'm saying? I deserve to do great. Why am I telling you this? Because maybe, just maybe, all of our parents did everything they could to give us what they could. And they're human. So maybe they didn't teach us these things. I wouldn't have known to pour this into my daughter if it wasn't for ACN and personal development. So maybe the child in you needs to hear these things too. And that's why I started where I started. Because if you can level up and if you can start to love yourself, if you can really start to care enough about yourself that you care about your health, you care about your mindset, you care about your spirituality, if you can start in you and you can build that solid foundation, then peaking someone isn't an issue anymore, because you realize that if someone says no, they're not rejecting you. It's just everyone's not for everyone. I love strawberries. I love blueberries. I don't like mushrooms. It doesn't mean that I hate the idea that mushrooms were created. It's just not for me. And for some people, ACN is not going to be for them. But when you have a healthy understanding of who you are, you don't associate ACN not being for them as a reflection on you being bad. I hope you caught that, because that's the disconnect. It's the crap that's going on in your mind that's limiting you. It's limiting you, and it's stopping you from moving forward. Because remember, I said last week and this week, if all of these steps are that simple, then why is it that people aren't winning? It's because of all the crap that you're still not dealing with. And here's what I need you to do. Stop wasting time. Look in the mirror. Start peeling back the layers. Start asking yourself why you speak that negative conversation. Start getting to the really to the depth of that understanding, because I'm not special. You know what I was? I was loved. My parents loved me. They taught me that. They taught me to love myself. That's where my confidence comes from. And when you understand that, I don't care who's not for me, because they don't have anything to do with me. What I do care is finding the people who are for me. And I don't associate people not being for me as a bad on me. I just know that everyone's different. And so because I can move forward and not feel as though I'm rejected, then my self-confidence isn't impacted by someone saying no or yes. My self-confidence remains the same, which means I can push through because there's nothing really to push through. I hope you guys are getting this. Because if you're really getting this, then the question isn't, how do I tweak and master all these little nuances on these scripts? Remember what I said last week? It's not the script. It's the fact that Aaron Burt, all these other leaders, Al Thomas, Patrick, and Michael Mazer, have 100% belief. It's who you're being when you're doing what you're doing. That's what the importance is. Because, as I think back as far as time in my life, I look at things and I'm so grateful I took a million pictures about everything. Like my daughter, she loved pictures, and then she got to a point where she was not really feeling pictures. And then I said, hey, look, all the pictures we look at with Grammy and Pop Pop and how you love to see them young and our aunts and uncles? She said, yeah. I said, well, if you don't let me take pictures now, you won't have those to show to your grandkids. And her eyes got big and she said, okay. So she started smiling more as a teenager in the pictures, doing all that. But I remember one year in September, Mr. Thomas, school had started, and it was a hot September. And, all the kids were supposed to be back in school. My daughter was back in school. And so I figured I would take the time, since I worked my butt off to be full-time in this business, take the time without anyone having to know. And I was going to take a book. And Mr. Thomas, I took a book to the pool, and I figured this is going to be perfect. The community pool, no one's going to be there because all the parents are at work, right? And all of the students are at school, the kids. So I'm going to have the pool all to myself. And so I got excited. I got in there. I was ready to read this book. It was a beautiful hot day, and I had the pool to myself. And then all of a sudden, you guys know how kids sound in the neighborhood. It's just a sound, you know it's kids coming. So, yep, the feet moving fast, the high-pitched voices. All of a sudden, I could hear kids coming. And I'm like, what's going on? I hear kids coming. They're supposed to be in school. And these kids ran. There were 3 boys. I was being nosy because I didn't know why they were here. And so I realized that 2 of the boys were brothers. They were siblings. And the other boy was their cousin. And listening, I guess they were able to spin one last hurrah, because the cousin had to go back, fly back to wherever he lived, to go back to school. And so the kids came in. The oldest sibling, he was a little more heavy set. So the cousin and the younger sibling, they were running in. The older sibling opened the gate. They ran in the gate, and they threw off their clothes. They threw their towel to the ground. They kicked their flip-flops off, and all you heard was cannonball, and they ran and they jumped in the pool, splash. They were done. The the older kid, he looked a little more concerned. He was worried. So he went over to the chair. He put his towel down neatly. He took off his flip-flops, and then he took his goggles and he put them on his head. And then he went over to the edge of the pool, and he was close to me, and he was a little huskier. And I thought he was going to splash me. I was waiting to see him jump in the pool. And then he did something that he shouldn't have done. Here's what he did. He went and he dipped his big toe in the pool. And I already knew the water was cold. I was like thinking to myself, don't do it, just jump in. And so he did it. And soon as he did it, he went, ooh, the water's cold. And then his brother and his cousin started splashing at him, saying, get in, quit playing. And he's like, I'm getting in, hold on. And so he went over to the stairs, and he had an idea that he was going to slow walk into the pool. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, that's not going to work. That's more painful. And so he got in, he was getting in, it's so cold. And he was going until the water got right above his knees, right before the area that us men, we know the cold is going to affect us. And so he thought about it, and he said, no, and he got out of the pool. He didn't get in. And they're like, what are you doing? He did this, guys, for about 10 minutes, and finally put his goggles on, and he had enough, and he jumped in, splash. 10 minutes that he did to do this. And here's what happened. He had fun. But about 30 minutes from the time they got into the pool, all of a sudden I see the father, and he said, come on, guys, let's go. We got to go now. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he wasted a third of the time he could have been having fun, him and Han trying to figure out how to get in the cold water. And what's so funny is it would have only taken his body a fraction of a second to get used to the water. But he spent 10 minutes, a third of the time he could have been enjoying himself, figuring that out. And the reason why I'm telling you is because I looked at it and I was like, man, he didn't even know. I'm pretty sure he thought he had more time, right? He didn't know his dad was going to call him home. He didn't know it was going to be time to go home. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because that's how a lot of people play in their lives. That's how we play in our lives. We spend time worrying and overthinking situations that if we just jumped in would only take us a fraction of the time to get acclimated to the new situation, where we could have been enjoying life and lifestyle and time. But you know what? The scary thing about it is, just like that little boy, you and I don't know when our Father's going to call us home. We don't know. We don't know how much time we have. And I started this with, we don't have time to waste. I need you to stop worrying about things that don't matter. I need you to start loving yourself. I need you to start caring about yourself like you would your grandchild or your child and speaking life into yourself instead of speaking death. I need you to be aware of the negative thoughts that are rambling around in your mind. And I need you to take inventory. I need you to start to decide what you're consuming and what you're allowing to rent space in your mind, because that's the foundation to being able to do the easy things. And that's the ability you'll have, the confidence, like the two little boys, to not care about the little bit of pain, but to jump in because it's about living the life and experiencing what you're supposed to experience on this planet. You got to do it. You deserve it. Your family members deserve to see you succeed. And so do you. And so I wanted to share that with you so that we can get through that crap, jump in, and get to where we need to go so that we can enjoy this time here versus being older and regretting that we didn't jump in because we didn't know we had such a short time to enjoy the pool. So with that, Mr. Thomas, I'll turn the call back over to you, sir.